Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. That there is Phil Perry. We are on site for the Super Bowl here in New Orleans. Early impressions, it's warmer. Phil, it was 11 degrees when we left on Sunday.
It's really nice here. You feel the sun on your skin, something I haven't felt in a very long time. I'm really enjoying my experience here. It's my first time in the city, Tom.
Yep.
So far, so good in terms of NFL Super Bowl host cities. I'm already ranking this one relatively high.
Maybe you guys don't know this, but there's palm trees in New Orleans. I was struck by that. You don't really know what's in New Orleans until you get to New Orleans, but there's palm trees, so it's got a nice look. What's been your favorite Super Bowl city, Phil? We'll get to the football in a second.
Favorite Super Bowl city is a good question. We've done Phoenix a couple times.
Yeah.
I actually sneaky kind of like Phoenix. Just good weather.
Same.
I've never had a bad meal in Phoenix. I'm partial to it because I visit it every year for the Combine. I really like Indianapolis. And
Very
even
convenient,
though
folks.
It was absolutely freezing during the Super Bowl. This was early 2012 when it was Patriots-Giants, second time around. I had a great time at that Super Bowl, and I love Indianapolis in general. So I think New Orleans might end up being number one, though. By the time we get to the end of this week, the amount of fried food I've already had, we had a delicious dinner last night.
Dinner.
We're going to have some delicious seafood, I think, later in the week. The food is great. For me, very simple-minded person. Good food, live music. I love Nashville. We haven't done a Super Bowl in Nashville yet. We will eventually, but whenever that happens, that's going to be near the top of the list for me. New Orleans, good food, live music. It's climbing rapidly.
We had a Delmonico steak. Now, you guys, I'm a big ribeye guy. I'm always going to get my medium rare ribeye, but there was a Delmonico, and I know that Delmonicos and ribeyes are the same thing generally. Phil, myself, everybody else at the table got the Cajun Delmonico, like ba'a. It was like ba'a. Let's get to some football. The vibe that I'm getting from everybody I've spoken to, Kevin Clark, our great friend from The Ringer, Grant Paulson from down in Washington, Jim Wyatt from Tennessee, my guy Matt Casey over at NBC. Each one of them seems to, if you're curious, register great enthusiasm over the presence of Mike Vrabel. I think that the Patriots have risen on the consciousness scale around the NFL with the hiring of Vrabel.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They still need some good players, and they still need to do more than win 4 games, which they've done each of the last 2 years. But with Vrabel in charge, with Josh McDaniels in charge of the offense, with Drake Maye getting into year 2 and we think improving, there's a lot to like at the most important jobs within the organization in terms of the football product. And so I get it from a national point of view for people from afar to look at it and say, hey, that thing's going in the right direction, huh,
right.
Tommy?
Yeah, which is, to me, it's funny because you're getting, here's a crumb thrown to you, hey, here's a bone, your team sucks now, which is astonishing to go from covering this team for so long when it was dominant and a conversation piece, even if they weren't good, to now, oh yeah, you guys, you hired Vrabel up there, huh? And not a blip. We just spoke with some of the guys from our NBC Sports brethren down in Washington, and speaking to them, I just pointed out that how ironic it is that the Patriots are emulating teams like Houston at the beginning of this year and now Washington. How can we get like the Commanders?
Isn't that wild when you think about that? Or the Lions even. I mean, the conversation all year was, how can the Patriots be more like the Detroit Lions? Things you never thought you would hear 5-6 years ago.
Well, some of you out there might say, I know how you can get better. You can go ahead and trade for Myles Garrett. Bad news for you. Because if you look at the fine print, Myles Garrett said, while I've loved calling this city my home, not New Orleans, Cleveland, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. The news is he's requesting a trade from Cleveland, but that to me is not saying, and I definitely want to go to New England, who's in the same boat as Cleveland.
Okay, but beggars can't be choosers, Tom. And if you're Myles Garrett and you want to get dealt, why not get dealt to a bad team that's on the upswing, as many people have been talking to you about since we've been here on Radio Row? They've got a good coach.
Theoretically,
they've got a quarterback. Theoretically on the upswing. They've got a great cornerback. And listen, if you want to go to a good team, that to me is pie in the sky sort of thinking if you're Myles Garrett, because good teams don't have the draft capital to send to the Browns to encourage them to move you. So if you want to get moved, you're probably going to have to go to a team that's not that good.
And that's the thing is Myles Garrett is an asset. And are the Browns going to take pennies on the dollar because Myles Garrett wants to go elsewhere? I mean, you get absolutely baked in your fan base. Baked.
Cooked.
Roasted.
Let the fan base cook.
So to me, they have to do what's best for them, regardless of what Myles Garrett wants. And that's the same thing that we saw over the weekend with the Luka Doncic trade, which we will plumb just a little bit. Acknowledging all that, Phil, should the Patriots be in the market for one Myles Garrett?
Yes. 1,000 times yes. He is arguably the best defensive player in football. He was Defensive Player of the Year in 2023. He's been four-time first team All-Pro 4 of the last 5 years. He's among the league leaders every single year in quarterback pressures, in sacks, and he's doing it on a defensive line that has had talent in the past. But you could drop him into a situation like New England. He's going to get double teams. It's going to make life easier for whether it's Keon White or Christian Barmore whenever he comes back. It's going to allow you to play some of those too high safety looks that I think the Patriots will want to play under Mike Vrabel a little bit more than they have in years past. And you're just so desperate for talent, Tom. The 4th overall pick is nice. And you might get an Abdul Carter, who might someday become Micah Parsons. Or maybe you get a Travis Hunter. But you know what Garrett is,
Yes.
And that is the kind of player. We talked last week about the players we'd be willing to trade for. Micah Parsons, Garrett Wilson. I threw out Charles Cross.
Sure.
Left tackle for Seattle. Like, Myles Garrett definitely is in that conversation, even though you'd have to pay him.
And that's what's interesting is, can the Patriots, you have to pay him, fine. They have the money to do it. If I'm the Browns, I'd be enticed by being able to have the 4th overall pick. Doubling that up with whatever they have right now, 3?
They have 2 right now, I believe.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question occurred to me, though, as Myles Garrett said, I want to get the hell out of here. Which organizations are worse than the Patriots right now? I came up with 6.
It's a fun conversation.
Cleveland,
Yeah.
Jets,
Okay.
Vegas, Jacksonville, Tennessee, New Orleans. Now, you might say to yourself, well, this is disappointing, and just like Phil said, fun conversation. But you have to be realistic. Okay, you can't look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, damn it, people like me,
Right.
and walk out into the world realizing that you're an ugly son of a bitch. Not realizing it.
Right.
So, to me, the Patriots have to be realistic about who they are and where they are in the pecking order.
Okay, but that doesn't mean you should stop trying for people like Myles Garrett or free agents that are going to have options elsewhere. You should feel as though you're the cock of the walk.
Cock of the walk.
And strut around with your chest out and all that cap space that you have and go make an offer to T. Hig. Have the confidence to go up to the girl and ask her for her number. That's the kind. You can't be carrying yourself like, oh, at least we're not 32 out of 32. Now we're 27 out of 32. That's pretty good, right? No.
All the other 6 teams at the nerd table are going to go, they're going over.
He's going to go talk to T. Higgins. What an idiot. Oh, this is so embarrassing.
Oh, here he comes. He nagged you, didn't he? All right. That was fun.
But you know what I mean?
Yes.
They should handle their business as though they're pursuing something great. Don't just shoot for the middle of the middle tier types of players in free agency just because you know you're not that good and people aren't going to be that interested.
I understand.
In you.
I just think a lot of teams are going to like him as a friend. Okay. The Luka Doncic deal, I found it fascinating, and one of the reasons, and we're going to get into a conversation with Mike Fleury about this week, is he mentioned that players, this was a Kevin Durant quote that Florio used. He said, players are held to a different standard of loyalty and commitment to a program, but the organizations don't get held to that same standard from the outside. And Florio says that, all right, he's right. Durant is exactly right. Teams can do whatever they want. Fans might not like it, but they never question the team's right to do it. But, which in the case of the Dallas Mavericks, they did something that they believe to be in the best interest of the team. Florio wonders, why do players get held to the standard where they're looked at as turncoats, traitors, and betrayers of an entire community when they say they want to go elsewhere? Like, for instance, Myles Garrett. Why do you think that is?
Or LeBron James. I always think back to the decision, right? That kind of thing. Because people aren't used to the player entitlement era the way they're used to players being traded. Players have always been able to be traded. And it's become part of the fabric of all of our professional sports here in North America. It's only recently that the players have been able to go to the teams and say, I'm not playing for you anymore. You're going to have to trade me. So let's go figure that out. Or, even free agency is still relatively new in terms of, the public consciousness in any of these sports. And so I think that's probably what it is. And I wonder if it's changing at all, Tom, in terms of how people approach or how people visualize and absorb these kinds of statements, whether it's Myles Garrett or LeBron James or anybody else. Because I feel as though now more than ever, kids are fans of players, not of teams. And so whereas before you were loyal to the jersey always first and foremost, and the love of the player came along with that, as soon as that player wanted to go elsewhere, you hated that guy. Now, with YouTube and social media and the ability to pull up highlights of a single guy and become fans of anybody, be able to watch any game at any time, I think kids now are more fans of the individual rather than the team. And I wonder if those kinds of perceptions of trade requests and things like that change over time.
That is interesting. I wonder if the same diehard fan of one team, because, again, with the internet, you can follow. It's not like the internet just watched the show either.
No.
We're 30 years into it practically. But with the internet, you could follow every team. And when I was growing up, you had a newspaper. And the newspaper was loaded with information about your team and only your team. So you didn't have the option. I do think that's one interesting thing when you pose this. It's a little bit, not naive, but it ignores the fact that when a player says he wants to be traded, he is in essence saying, I don't like your franchise. I don't like this community enough to want to stay here. I don't want to be part of what you believe in. Team, community. So it is more personal.
Good point.
When a player says, I don't like it here.
It's insulting to the fans.
This is something that's important to me. You don't want to, how do people react when a player criticizes the Patriots? Or Calvin Ridley says, I don't want to go to New England. Or whoever didn't want to go to New England. Everybody these days. All right, we're going to be moving on real quick. We got our guy, Chris, is Ruben Frank from Philadelphia, a good old friend of ours. We're going to be getting some of the guys in here. Phil has already moved through a steady stream of guests today, and we will have quick slants tomorrow. But stay tuned for more fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the great Chris Simms, formerly of the Texas Longhorns. I really like you at Texas.
You like me at Texas?
I really did. I thought you were.
Well, but I got the NFL, and you're like, I don't like you anymore? Or you just,
the spleen thing.
Yeah.
The spleen thing.
Yeah.
Really
I was irrelevant, so you were like, who cares?
But I liked you at Texas.
Thanks, man.
Chris Simms, as you know, he works for NBC. We're in the same brotherhood.
Yep.
First question I want to ask you, since it's on the tip of many people's tongues in New England, if you had to win one particular football game, and you could only choose one quarterback to play that game for you, would you take Tony Eason? Would you take Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady?
Drew Bledsoe. No. Damn. I mean, they're both the clutchest people
we know that.
I've ever seen, right? I mean, it's crazy. I know. It really is. It's, I guess, I'd like to see Mahomes go throughout the rest of his career, too. I'll say this. Mahomes, through the first 7 years of his career, is the clutchest I've ever seen anybody. Yep. Okay, that's what I got to say. The fact that it's 5 out of 6 Super Bowls, it's the way they do it, and not that Brady wasn't clutch in a lot of ways, too, but they're clutch so much here the last few years. Every game's a nail-biter, right? There's some things you could say negatively about that as well.
Certainly. But what's interesting is they never get blown out. As we're talking about this, I was going to say, I've never seen Mahomes do something like Brady did, but they never fall down in Atlanta.
No.
At the Atlanta Super Bowl.
Right.
But they never fall behind by 14 or 20
Very
points.
rare. The last time I can remember it was the year they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. They went down to Tennessee, and Vrabel and company spanked them pretty good in the regular season, and they were up by 2 or 3 touchdowns in a game, and I remember that was one of the first times ever. I was like, damn, it's over today. Right. They're being dominated. It's not going to be a close game.
You know what's interesting is you never answered the question.
I know. I'm going to give Mahomes. I'm going to say Mahomes for right now. I don't say that lightly. I know who Tom Brady is, and I've always said he's the clutchest damn quarterback I've ever seen. This guy, though, this is where I think it's a little different, all right? He literally got on the team, and they were just like, carry the team. right away, right? It wasn't like maybe Brady where we're going to play defense, we're going to run
Sure.
the ball. It was literally like, hey, you're the starter. We need 350 and 4 touchdowns this week. And that's how they went about it for about 3 or 4 years. Then they went, we can't keep this offensive firepower together. Tyreek Hill, I don't know what to do there. Let's start to spread the wealth on the team, and let's put more of the wealth on the defense, and Patrick will cover the holes on the offensive side of the ball. And that's what I find kind of amazing. So that's where I give it the edge right now. But damn, it doesn't, I don't feel warm and cozy saying that.
That's fine. Well, let's go to the next obvious
Yeah.
one, which is if you had to win one game.
Yeah.
I'll be stunned if you don't answer this one, the way I'm presuming. If you had to win one game and you needed a head coach on the
No,
sidelines.
I'm taking
to win.
Belichick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belichick's Andy Reid is up there now. But I'm going to still go with Belichick with all the big games we've seen, and big games, taking away the best thing a team does, coming out with a new angle that we're like, well, I didn't see them do this all year. And they came out and they're throwing screens today all of a sudden every play, right? Or, what the hell defense are they playing? Let me see the replay of that again. Hold on my DirecTV.
Right.
What? What is that, right?
I mean, how old were you when you saw the Super Bowl against the Bills?
I was there. I was 10 and a half.
Yeah.
I remember back into the 88-89 season, Bill Belichick is kind of as I understand it, the inventor of the dime defense too, because they were playing the run and shoot Detroit Lions with Barry Sanders, and he went, the hell with all these big linebackers. We need to just be fast and stop these passes and stop him. But yeah, I would give Belichick the advantage in that. But this group is slowly but surely at least close the gap a little.
Yes.
Because I don't feel like, and I don't know how you feel, I don't know if I feel like the Chiefs have been the better team in any of the Super Bowls they're in. I don't think they're better than the Eagles. I didn't think they were better than the 49ers last year. They're close, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think Mahomes and Andy kind of close the gap, right?
I think that their game management is astounding.
Is amazing.
Astounding.
That's where they're a lot like the old Patriot
Yes.
teams and all that. Situational football, they are on point.
And it takes so much to have your players understand the situations.
Right.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Just having watched it here, because now the void of Bill having gone and Drake Maye, really that was a huge learning curve for him, and no one around him to help him along with that. So that logically follows then. I'm going to ask you.
Well, one more thing I find cool about that conversation, because it's cool with both of those, Reid and Belichick, is Belichick, don't forget your question you were going to ask there, okay? Because I know you're getting old and you might forget.
No, I footnoted it up here.
Okay. The other thing that's great, I love how the different identities of the two greatest teams, the Patriots and the Chiefs, and that the Patriots are so buttoned up and detailed, and we're going to come in and do exactly this and do this, and the Chiefs are a little bit more wing it to a degree, I would say, right? Oh, Taylor Swift, sure, come on in.
Sure.
You want more media? No problem. Where Bell would be like, no more media on to Cincinnati, right? So it's a little bit of a different feel, which I think is refreshing that way too.
It's really funny, though, when you think about it. There were occasions when Bill courted attention and then pretended that he didn't want it. You don't have to go sign Tim Tebow. You don't have to go get Ocho. You don't have to go get Albert Haynesworth. You don't have to have, so it was always kind of funny. Oh, I don't want anybody watching. I don't want a whole bunch of people at our training camp. We'll go sign Tim Tebow.
Right.
The question I was going to ask you is, one of the momentous occasions in which Bill Belichick was outmanaged in a game was when Mike Vrabel turned the tables on him a little bit. And he's been a very good coach. Were you surprised that he was available? And he never should have gotten shit-canned.
No, of course not. That was the dumbest thing ever. What were they thinking? Let me fire one of the best coaches in football who's outperformed with a team that most people on the street couldn't name more than 2 people on the team, but they're always in the AFC playoffs. And we're a 1 seed one year. And in the AFC championship, Vrabel to me is I've said this for a while, a combination of Belichick and Parcells. That's who he reminds me of. He's kind of got the Belichick detail, curmudgeon every day, but he's got a little bit of charisma and can talk crap to the media a little bit and make you guys feel like we're all friends together, right? So he's got that way about him. He, to me, was the guy I always this is the first guy off the board. How could you not be him? I'm not shocked he went back to New England. I'm not shocked New England wanted him. It all fits perfect. It kind of keeps the Belichick, Parcells culture alive, but yet it's got its own little new taste to it, right? So, no, I'm a big fan of it, and I mean, I want to say, yeah, am I surprised he was still out there? Only because I think he's that awesome.
Agreed.
But he was going to be out there because I think he wanted to talk to the Patriots.
It's funny because I think a lot of people, at least locally, because we do talk show after talk show,
Right.
we're critical of the Patriots for not going out there and kicking over every rock and talking to Ben Johnson. They did talk to Ben Johnson, but spend more time. Don't just call it a fait accompli.
Right.
And I'm like, well, if you know what you want,
Yes.
just hire the friggin' guy.
Exactly right. He fits everything about what makes you guys so special. And let alone the results speak for themselves. He's one of the most hands-on coaches in football in the offseason and the training during the season. He does it all. I'm pumped. I think you guys got it going. Unfortunately, as a New York Giant and a New Yorker, you guys got it going again.
It happened quick.
Damn, I want to swear and all this crap. You got a quarterback.
Okay,
got things going.
Why do you hate Drake Maye?
Listen, I told you my concerns with him in the draft. I did. He was not my favorite. He definitely fixed some of the things I was worried about, and he proved me wrong.
It's pretty remarkable to see a kid in a 4-month span, really, from April, because that's what he did. I kind of saw the same thing. I'm like, he's not that accurate.
If you went to his pro day at North Carolina, I would have gone, you don't draft this person in the first round.
Yeah, his feet are shooting everywhere.
Exactly right.
He was trying to throw off platform for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good way to say it.
But he really drastically improved.
Drastically. Like, all the moving parts you're talking about all got, fine-tuned. The motion got tighter and quicker. The legs and the feet were in the right spot. We knew he had physical ability, but now there was the ability of doing it consistently. And damn, I mean, the athleticism, when he opens up and runs, he's one of the faster quarterbacks. Other than Lamar and maybe a few other guys, he's as fast as any quarterback in football.
He's so decisive about it.
He really is. Was really impressed with the way he played throughout the year, especially all the big throws down the field. Like, it looks like I was wrong about that evaluation.
That happens. Chris Simms, you have to go do a show at 2 o'clock with the great Mike Florio.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you loose.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. I'll come back later if you want. Don't say great Mike Florio. Let's just say Mike Florio, okay? Like, don't pump his head up.
Mike Florio, the great Chris Simms, coming at you.
I like that better.
Nice. Thanks, Mike.